Deacon Norm, and I'm here to share with you the Saint of the Week. And this week we have Saint Damien de Veuster, or better known as Saint Damien of Malachi. Saint Damien was born in 1840. He passed in 1889. He was venerated by Pope Paul VI in 1972, beatified by Saint John Paul II in 1995, and was canonized by Benedict XVI in 2009. Saint Damien was baptized as Joseph de Veuster in Belgium. He was really the youngest of seven. Four of the children joined religious life. And as a family, they were really raised on a farm. So he went to school until he was 13, until he was needed on the farm, so then he had to drop out of school. And then eventually by age 20, he joined his brother and joined the Congregation of the Sacred Hearts of Jesus and Mary. And really was working hard to become a priest. But they said he didn't know enough. But they knew he was intelligent enough because he learned Latin within a year from his brother. And so they eventually did allow him to study to join the priesthood. At a given point in his life, his brother, just a few years later, was offered the opportunity to go on a mission trip to Hawaii to serve the Hawaiian Islands. At that time, it was under the kingdom. It was a kingdom ruled by a monarchy. Anyway, his brother became very sick before he could leave. So Saint Damien, or Father Damien at the time, asked to go in his brother's place. By the way, Father Damien took the name of Damien after a 6th century martyr. And that's why he's called Father Damien instead of Joseph. Anyway, he offered to go cover for his brother. So and the order accepted that. So when he went to Hawaii, he arrived in Hawaii in May of, I think it was his 24th birthday, 24th birthday. And eventually he was ordained to the priesthood about 3 months later. And he worked on the islands for a number of years. And ultimately the bishop there really wanted a priest to be able to go to the island of Malachi. To kind of sidestep a little bit, the island of Malachi basically was an island to where all of the lepers went to from the Hawaiian Islands. You see, several decades before that, the islands were really very healthy islands. Then all of a sudden, people started coming from all over the world to work in the islands, on the plantations and everything. And the islands was just covered with disease, and where many of the natives were passed away, and so the numbers were going down. And one of the diseases that really started to take over was leprosy. So they started having a lot of people being sent away from the islands, and the king at that time designated Malachi, which is really a part of a peninsula off of Kalapupula. And as he did that, many 3-year-olds, 10-year-olds, spouses, grandparents, all kinds of ages were sent there and never allowed to come back. So when Damien eventually volunteered to go there, because the bishop wanted to have the Catholic religion brought to Malachi. There were 4 priests, by the way, who volunteered to do that, and the bishop's intention at that time was to kind of have one go about every other year. Well, Father at that time, Damien, basically went there, and he entered a system of anarchy. There were people dying, lay without being buried. There were animals basically going at free will across the island. There was really no order to the island. So what he did when he got there is he organized the island, organized people to build homes, to build streets, communities, and ultimately to build St. Philomena, the church. And so ultimately he brought what I would call calmness to that environment. And eventually, throughout all of that, he brought Christ to them, giving them a lot of hope. So he stayed there for a number of years without getting leprosy himself. And that was for about 11 years. So one day, He was really starting to get ready to take a bath, and he stepped into a vat of hot water and didn't feel it. And he knew right away that he had leprosy because that was a sign of leprosy. So he continued to work and really spent a lot of time with the people of Malachi. And then 4 or 5 years later, he eventually did come to the end of his life. What was really remarkable about his life is that he had another saint join him when he made a request to be able to get some support, and that was Sister Marianne Cope, and who eventually became Saint Marianne Cope. What was significant about his work in Malachi is that it became a world-renowned place to support as opposed to a place of evil and end of life. It became a place of hope. And so ultimately, he was canonized on the basic premise that he was a martyr, and also being canonized in that he brought a lot of healing, not only to people when he was alive, but also as he passed. So our challenge to you and to all of us is that eventually this could be you.